Hi everyone, this is North, a place for real stories about real people who remind us that the world is not only shaped by darkness, but also by the beauty and goodness in humanity. Today we have 3 stories that live in very different places and times. At first, these stories might not seem connected. One is about neighbors, one is about resistance, one is about medicine. But beneath all 3 is the same enduring truth. Goodness often begins with the simple act of paying attention. Let's begin in Fruitland, Iowa, a small town with 2 13-year-old boys, Gunnar Skidmore and Kohen doing something completely ordinary for 13-year-old boys, riding bikes. It was the kind of summer morning that doesn't announce itself as important. What summer morning does, really. Gunnar had started the day with an ordinary routine, a little breakfast, a little time on TikTok, and then a FaceTime call from his best friend. Kohen wanted to go for a ride, so they hopped on their bikes and headed out. There wasn't any grand plan, just 2 kids enjoying their summer break life of hanging out and riding bikes together. But while they were out, Kohen noticed something in a yard that didn't look normal, didn't look quite right. He asked Gunnar, "Did you see that lady back there?" Gunnar hadn't seen her. They went back to get a better look, and after a bit of searching, Gunnar saw it too, a woman lying on the ground in her yard. When they got closer, they realized the woman needed help. She had fallen in her backyard the evening before and had been outside for more than 16 hours. She didn't have her phone, couldn't call for help. She had been alone through the night and into the heat of the next day without any water. The boys asked if she was okay, and she told them she needed 911. At first, they were not completely sure what to do. They weren't even sure if they should get closer to her. Well-trained boys, right? So they did the best thing they could think of. Call Gunnar's mother. I actually love that part of this story. Not sure what to do? Let's call Mom. She, of course, came quickly and called 911. The woman was taken to the hospital. And then, after the emergency response, another part of the story I think I love even more. Gunnar's mother stayed in touch with the family. She fed and watered the horse while the woman received medical care and made plans to bring food, lasagna, when the woman was released from the hospital. Such a classic American small-town neighborliness, isn't it? What I love about this story is how ordinary it is. Granted, it's not ordinary for 2 kids on bikes to find someone lying on the ground in need of medical care, but the rest of it, 2 boys on bikes, a glance toward a yard, a decision to turn back, more curiosity than anything, checking with Mom to see if it's okay to approach a stranger, and then what happens after the drama as well. The mom taking over horse care, staying in touch with the family, all those things, bringing food when the woman gets home. So much of the goodness in this world begins like this and continues like this. These are the beautiful people in this world. That same beauty appears again in the life of Adolfo Kaminsky, though in a much darker world. Kaminsky was born in Argentina in 1925 to a Jewish family, and he moved to France as a child. He was fascinated by the chemistry of colorants. As a teenager, he worked in a dye shop and later as a chemist's assistant in a butter factory. These were his jobs, but it was also his passion. Whenever he wasn't working, he was still pursuing more knowledge on the subject. He bought a treatise on the topic at a flea market. He set up a laboratory in his uncle's basement. He studied how colors behaved, how stains could be removed, how ink reacted, how paper could be altered without being destroyed. And then came the Nazi occupation of France. For Jews and others hunted by the regime, identity papers could mean the difference between life and death. The name, the stamp, the date, the photograph, the quality of the paper itself, every single detail mattered. That document had to survive inspection. It had to look exactly right. Or we could say, exactly ordinary. Kaminsky and his family were in danger too. They were Jewish, and they needed papers that could protect them from deportation. His search for false documents eventually brought him into contact with the resistance. Now, by this time he was 18, and he had something the resistance needed. He understood chemistry. He knew ink. He knew how to remove writing from paper without damaging the page. And in that world, under those conditions, that knowledge was life-saving. not only for him. He began working in a secret laboratory in Paris, creating false identity documents for Jews and others trying to escape the Nazis. The pressure of the work was incredible. Every detail mattered. A document that looked almost right was not good enough. Almost right could get a person arrested. Almost right could send a family to their deaths. Every single detail had to be exactly right. The paper, the stamp, the ink. And Kaminsky was fully aware of the weight of his work. In fact, he later described a terrible calculation that shaped his nights. He would tell himself, stay awake as long as possible, struggle against sleep. The calculation is easy. In 1 hour, I make 30 false papers. If I sleep 1 hour, 30 people will die. That perspective is almost unbearable. But it reveals something about the depth of his conscience. And over the course of the war, he created documents that saved the lives of more than 14,000 Jews. Well, for me, 14,000 is a number so large that it's kind of difficult to feel it. But in the room where he worked, it was not abstract, and he felt every single one. One document at a time, one name changed, one stamp recreated, one photograph placed carefully, one by one by one. What connects Kaminsky to those boys in Io is not the scale of the story. The settings could hardly be more different. But in each case, someone sees a human being in danger and offers their time and attention to meet the need. For Gunnar and Kohen, the response was immediate and instinctive. For Kaminsky, it was disciplined and sustained. Both kinds of goodness matter. Sometimes a moment suddenly asks something of us. Other times we've spent years developing something. Sometimes it's simply a passion, a hobby. And then history knocks at our door asking whether we are willing to use it. Which brings me to the story of gene therapy and hearing. Now, there are all kinds of deafness. Some children are born with a form of genetic deafness connected to mutations in a gene called OTOF. And in some of these children, parts of the hearing system may be present, but the signal cannot travel properly. The ear is there, the brain is there, everything's there, but the message doesn't get through. For many people, hearing aids and cochlear implants have been life-changing, and now gene therapy is stepping into the ring as well. Researchers have developed a treatment with results so compelling that on April 23 of this year, 2026, the FDA approved the first gene therapy for this kind of genetic hearing loss. The company who makes it has said it will make the therapy itself available at no cost. Now, this might feel like a rather insignificant development to many of us, but I love it, and here's why. I have friends and relatives with obscure, rare medical challenges, not deafness, but regardless. I see their frustration when they've exhausted every available avenue for treatment and get to the point where they're told, well, there's nothing right now, but there are some researchers working on this, or there's a clinical trial that's being done which holds some promise for the future. I've seen how hard it is to feel like your problem is so rare, so unique. When is anyone going to have the time and resources to develop something that will help such a small group of people in a meaningful way? And we often see headlines about this kind of study or that kind of study, something that looks promising but is still years away from being solid enough to make available. But this time, this year, this is ready to go to work. For these people. Of course, this is not a cure for every kind of deafness. It is not universal and it is not simple. We're not flattening the story into one easy message, but this means real progress for real people who've not had something suitable for their specific needs yet. And so when I hear something like this, that a rare form of deafness has a new option for treatment, I want to celebrate. I think we should all celebrate. When I think about these three stories together, I think about the fact that the goodness in this world exists long before it shows its face. For Gunnar and Kohen, it's the goodness that is growing in them through the nurture of people like Gunnar's mom. The discovery of the injured woman showed them who they were, but it was in them all along. For Adolfo, history and circumstances put him in a position to have an extraordinary impact, but his conscience and his skills were developed before. For the researchers working on gene therapy, most of them go to work each day and study and research and experiment, knowing that very little of what they do will actually be practically applicable. But still they pursue it, because it is precisely in this way that the day comes when a real treatment for a real kind of deafness becomes available. Goodness is the answer people give when they decide that another person's life and well-being is worth their time and attention. It looks different in every generation, but the heart of it is the same. These are your neighbors. This is you. And this is North. I'll see you here.